Hi everybody, welcome back. Good one today. We're talking to somebody who, and I think it'll come out in the conversation, I was aware of years and years before anybody else, because he used to work with a friend of mine, and he used to say, Bill this, Bill that, Bill, who is this Bill? And then some years went by and I discovered that this Bill was the polymathic, multi-talented, award-winning musician, comedian, writer, dancer. Who saw that coming? Bill Bailey. Hey, Bill Bailey. There he is. Are you in a proper studio or something there?
Yes, this is my studio that I'm in now. There's my various array of instruments and some rather dull grey cupboards which contain more instruments. And it's my shed. So I've turned it into a sort of, somewhere where I can conduct conversations like this with fellow professionals.
Oh, you flatter me. I can go months without running into you. When I do run into you, it's always very enjoyable. And only last week we ran into each other at essentially a sad occasion, but one filled with a lot of love and laughter, which was Barry Cryer's funeral. And it turned out to be a lovely thing.
It was, wasn't it? I thought it was a lovely service, and there was some beautiful words spoken, and you could tell from all of the tributes and everything. It was as you say, a sad occasion, but obviously another occasion where a lot of comics came to pay tribute, and a lot of us got to see each other who haven't in a while.
Yeah, it was lovely in that sense. And it's that thing as well of the different generations of comics. I'm just reading Harry Hill's book.
Yes.
And he talks about first meeting Ronnie Corbett. He also talks about first meeting Barry Cryer, which was on a train going to Ronnie Corbett's house. And I think there's a conversation to be had, and I hope we're going to have it now, about the generations encountering each other. And for me, when you're in that younger generation, the very pleasant surprise of, oh, we're not so different after all.
Yes. And the fact that those shared experiences with comedians we grew up with, we grew up watching them on the TV. They were sort of part of our lives for so long. They were seemingly this part of the pantheon of entertainment and when you meet them there, I was struck with a sense of awe that I was meeting them, and then as you say, you talk to them and you realize, well, no, actually, they're talking about the same things, about writing material and doing gigs and going on tour and shows that don't work and shows that do work, and you start to realize that we're we're part of a sort of a continual process. We're just carrying on the torch.
Yeah, that's right. As Elton John said, with the words of Sir Tim Rice, the circle of life.
The circle of life.
The big thing we chatted most about, you and I, the other day when we ran into each other, was your incredible, out of nowhere experience on Strictly, which was, and I think all the comics were when you did so well, because there must have been this expectation that you're going to be the Joker, you'll go out in week 3 and we'll all have a laugh.
When I was signed up to the show, I started to watch old YouTube clips of other shows, and you'd see some people like dressed as the Easter Bunny or a squirrel or something. I thought, well, okay, I'm fine with that if that's the way it's going to go. And I think the fact that OT had won the previous year with Kelvin Fletcher, there was an assumption that by pairing her with me, then there was no chance that she was going to win back to back, because there's no way Bill's going to, that was a sort of impression. And I think actually it sort of spurred certainly OT on, and me as well, to try and sort of prove them wrong, as if to say, well, no, we're not going to be the joke.
Yeah, but you know what? Early on, I could see in your eye. And I remember saying to Claire, oh, no. This is what Mr. Stallone would call the eye of the tiger. He's taking this very seriously. Because most people never have to learn a dance in their life, certainly once they become an adult, right? Now, I've had to do it through work a few times, and I found it incredibly challenging.
It's way harder than you can imagine. You have to have a certain level of fitness. You have to have a certain level of stamina. You have to know about posture. So it's like every part of you is engaged. It's a mental challenge because you're having to remember these steps. The concentration levels required is just off the charts. And then there's the physical element of it, and then the fun performance element of it. It's almost like more this. It's so immersive, and as you say, it's very very hard indeed. And I have enormous respect. Well, even more respect for the dancers, the professionals who've devoted their lives to this.
And how did you find the judges, the being judged, being stood there? Because again, you see, as an actor, as a comedian, you can choose not to read reviews. And if you're selling out the venue and they're laughing, who cares if somebody doesn't think it's any good, right? But to stand there, I've always thought this, especially for comedians, to stand there and have to hear criticism. That's an odd situation.
Yeah. It troubled me probably the most was being judged like that. Like we're never judged in that way. It's sort of the judging is whether people laugh or not. That's our ultimate judge. And at first I didn't quite know how I was going to react. And again, I went back and looked at a few old shows, and the one and the ones where people took issue with the judges, you just looked so petty and. And sort of foolish, like, well, I think that's outrageous. I think it deserved a +6. You just sound ludicrous. So I just thought, you know what? I'm gonna keep stum and just take whatever, nod politely and just, keep my head down and improve.
I always remember when Bruce was still presenting it, and I think I'm right in saying it was Julian Clary was on. And he was there having the judges' comments, and maybe just before it, and Bruce said something to him, and Julian, really lovely deadpan thing, said, "Well, of course, dance is my life," and Bruce, quick as a shot, went, "Well, you haven't got long to live."
Yes, yeah, you're on borrowed time, love. Yeah.
But you are now about to be on tour. Tell me about this tour. Where can people see you, and what can they expect, Bill? I mean, is it just dance now, basically?
Yeah, it's basically there's a blank stage and a lot of dry ice, and I appear. I'm the spirit. I'm the spirit of the world. No, it's basically it's called En Route to Normal, and who knows how long that will take, but it was going in full flow last year, and it was going great, and I was really enjoying it. And then Omicron put the kibosh on that, and so this is really the talk, carrying on from last year. There's a lot about, I suppose, my own experiences of lockdown, my own experiences of the creative process in such a strange time. How do we draw on that when a lot of two of my previous shows, a lot of them the content was derived from my own experiences of travel and being around the world, of course, things that are completely denied to us. So it was very much about going into memory, going into childhood memory. The creative process was a completely different experience. And then it was about trying to find some positives in it. And one of the things that's come out of this the tour, something which surprised me, was that my own memory of when I first learned the piano when I was a kid. And one of the very first things I learned was Maple Leaf Rag by Scott Joplin. Yeah. And because, of course, the film, The Sting, was very popular in the early 70s. So that sort of inspired me to learn about ragtime. So I incorporate ragtime into the show, and it's this enormous reaction from the crowd because it's such a joyful, sort of life-affirming musical form. People love to hear it, and I sort of, the way I talk about it is that, the Roaring Twenties happened after the last global pandemic. Hopefully that's where we're headed. That's what would be a wonderful thing if there's an outpouring of creativity and hedonism and innovation, all of those things. And that was partly driven by jazz, and the progenitor of that was ragtime. I'm trying to sort of draw parallels with our situation now. And what it's led to is people shouting out songs for me to play in the ragtime style, some of which you would never expect, like Ace of Spades by Motorhead, seems to work particularly well, along with a whole bunch of other stuff. So there's a lot of that personal recollection, a lot of music and some new instruments that I've learnt over the last 2 years. A lot more music, actually, a lot of musical composition and juxtaposition.
Brilliant, brilliant. I was thinking that I don't remember where we first met, but I do remember where I first heard about you, and it was before you had come to prominence. It was in the sort of early to mid 90s, and I was in Bath, part of an improv group called More Fool Us, with Toby Longworth.
Yes, that's
and
right.
Toby was this wonderful... Toby is somebody people would know if they saw him. They go, oh, that guy. And Toby was in this group and always seemed way ahead of the rest of us. And he would tell us, your name kept coming up, Bill, because he'd been in a double act with you called the Rubber Bishops. And just the fact here was a guy who'd been in a double act, that was impressive. And Bill, he used to talk about you all the time, Bill. Where does that fit into your story?
Well, Toby and I we were at school together. We lived in Bath. We grew up there. We would just hang out for hours and hours and hours and just talk load of old nonsense. We just have a recorder, a tape recorder, and we would just record conversations and just daft improvisations for hours and hours and hours and make up stupid songs just for our own amusement, really. And then there was a kind of quite a good music scene in Bath, and there was a club there, Mole's Club, and we used to go to, and we persuaded the owner to let us have a comedy night there. So we ended up we ran a club in Bath called the Cactus Club, and we every month we'd have a sort of new acts, and then we would perform and introduce new acts. And we went up to Edinburgh. I think that was where it really started to kind of come together. A venue had become available. Like an act had turned up. They were like, they were from Poland or something. There was a mime troupe there. They didn't show up, so there was a venue free, and we said, well, we'll do it. And they, have you got a show? And we were like, yeah. And then we just winged it for a week, and that was the start of we started to get a lot of gigs. And
how long were you a duo for?
Oh, from when we left school, probably that was like sort of early 80s, until for the next few years, really.
And at school, I was surprised to read that you were as sporty as you were musical. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I guess I was involved in a lot of things. I was in the school play, the cricket team, and I was, playing in the school concerts. So I was fully immersed.
Yeah.
To be honest, it led to conflict not with me but with the teachers. The teachers were sort of got possessive over, like the kind of the academics lot were saying, well, you shouldn't bother with this music nonsense, and then the theatre lot are saying, well, we need you for rehearsal, and then the PE well, when are you going to get in the cricket nets, and all that. So it had its own problems, but I'm very glad that I did get involved in all those things. I think that it's meant that I now, as you say, I value those collaborations and being involved in things. I think that's probably why I work all the time. I always like to be busy, and that's probably why when Strictly I wanted to sort of throw myself into it with 100%. I wasn't going to half do it.
The only time we really performed together, from my memory, Bill, is when you came on my BBC Two show, and we did Always on My Mind with you on the cowbells.
That's right.
Which is one of my favourite memories of that show. It's great. And again, I mean, maybe we'll put a link, or if not, people could just get off their bottom and just put our names and cowbells in.
Have a look.
And have a look, because it was lovely.
Yeah, it was great fun. I enjoyed that very much.
All right, well, listen, good luck with the tour.
Thanks, Rob.
I'm sure it'll be another success. And should you decide to enter the Olympics as well, I hope that goes well.
Yes.
And anything you turn your many talents to.
I think I'd like to have a go at curling.
Curling up in a ball, or
curling up in a ball? No, the sliding the stones, skiing, cross country. I think that ship has sailed.
But I think the curling would draw on your sporting skills, and I know you're a very tidy man, Bill. So also the sweeping up would also play to your strengths.
Yes. I'd like to do a more sort of creative curling, though. I think the stones they're missing a trick there. Those stones is quite dull, just throwing those stones down. Maybe they just push down like, a 3-piece suite, like a sofa, 2 chairs, and a standard lamp. And they have to all.
Yeah.
Then, it'd be fun. Freestyle curling. That's my aim.
Well, if you need anybody on board, I'm in. I'll do it with you. Okay. A great pleasure, Bill. Thanks
Cheers.
so much for doing this, and I'll see you soon, I hope.
Yeah, see you soon, Rob.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.